Time to go in the trenches on This Week in Football presented by Geico. The Seahawks' Richard Sherman may be the best corner in football, and he did make one of the biggest defensive plays in NFC Championship history. But his deflected pass, which resulted in a Malcolm Smith interception, was trumped by his boastful post-game interview with Aaron Andrews on Fox.
The final play, take me through it.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game. When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're going to get. Don't you ever talk about me.
Who was talking about you?
Crabtree, don't you open your mouth about the best. Or I'm going to shut it for you real quick. LOB.
Now, obviously, Richard gave us a pro wrestling style post-game interview there, guys, and he's since apologized for taking the focus off of his teammates and attacking an individual, although also hinting that the incident goes back to something that happened in the offseason between Crabtree and Richard Sherman. But, Howard, did you have a problem with what you saw from Richard Sherman after the game?
I think that, most of the people who watch games and stuff, you want the inside look, you want the raw emotion, you want all these things. But then you like to complain about them if it's not exactly what you see. And I think that's the funniest thing about the game. We put a reporter on the sideline to get this emotion right after the game. I want to know what you feel. And then when you say it, oh, you shouldn't say that. Don't ask if you don't want to know.
Did you have any problem, Ross?
Well, it's not how I would prefer a guy to act. I'd prefer you win and be a little bit more gracious when you win. But make no mistake about it, I work in the media now. I have a radio show. I have a podcast. I love Richard Sherman right about now. I mean, he's given us fodder for this entire week. And really, the reality is the guy is a marketing genius. I mean, think about it for a second. My wife, at 10:30 Sunday night, looked over at me. She didn't even watch the game. She said, "Who's Richard Sherman?" Because on Facebook, everybody was talking about it. This guy is now by far the most well-known of the Seattle Seahawks. More than Russell Wilson, more than Marshawn Lynch. He's got a communications degree from Stanford, and so far it's paying off.
Well, and you know what? Here's the other thing, too. A lot of times in the NFL, it's the sport itself that's actually marketed, right? It's about the shield. It's not about individual players in this sport often, unless you're, say, a quarterback or one of those.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah, right. If you're Peyton Manning or you're Tom Brady or that kind of guy. Ross, I'm not sure that any of us would have known what a good corner Richard Sherman was if he hadn't started pointing the microscope on himself over the last couple of years with these boastful comments.
And what's been amazing about it is he started saying, I'm better than Revis, I'm the best. And then he went out and delivered week in and week out. 8 interceptions back-to-back years? Are you kidding me? For a corner that a lot of people don't want to test. They don't want to try him because he is such a good player.
You know what, Howard, do you think you need a guy like that on a team to be successful as well?
Well, yes, and, going back to what you just said, you got to remember that the league has tried to, stifle the whole individual of the player. They want everybody to be uniform, to look alike, to sound alike, to dress alike. And guys are doing more and more creative things to try to become individuals. Richard Sherman's done a great job of promoting himself, self-promotion, but he's also done a great job of just letting people know, hey, look, it's me. Look at me. And they're coming at him from a lot of different angles. I like it. You need that guy on the team. You need a guy who can talk the talk, walk the walk, and deliver. A guy you can depend on every week.
And Ryan, this is going to happen when you stick a microphone in a guy's face right after he makes the biggest play of his life. I was never good enough that they actually interviewed me on the field right after the game. There was usually a 10-minute cooling off period before the reporters came into the locker room, and by then you've calmed down, then you talk to him, and you're not like that. But if somebody stuck a microphone right in my face after I had the pancake block to go to the Super Bowl, it was a toss my way, I pancaked the guy, and we're going to the Super Bowl, and they said, "What do you think, Ross?" I would have been like, "I killed that guy. We're going to the Super Bowl." Now, and I don't mind him saying he thinks he's the best. I didn't particularly care for saying Crabtree's sorry,
right,
because he's not. Crabtree's actually a pretty good player. And make it about yourself.
Right.
Make it about your team. Don't make it about diminishing somebody else.
Well, if you're playing in the game and you're doing a lot of smack talk, which you do from time to time, if it's going back and forth between two guys and you win, it doesn't go off. The switch doesn't just automatically turn off. If they were to ask him in the locker room the same question, different answer. But asking him on the field after getting his face mushed, after him tapping and trying to reach the hand out the olive branch and getting his face smushed, he was fired up.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of an olive branch that really was that Richard Sherman was extending. But, hey, if we take a look at Richard Sherman's numbers since he's come into the league, look at him since 2011, first in interceptions, 20 interceptions. He is first in passes defended, and and he is first in quarterback rating when he is targeted. So he has completely backed up his words in these 3 years.
And just look at his face right there. I mean, he is angry, and he plays angry. That's what fuels him. That's part of the reason why he's so good. Let's not forget, this is a guy that played wide receiver at Stanford at the start of his career. 5th-round pick. He got a chip on his shoulder, and that's part of the reason why he is so good.
You know what I wanted to ask you guys about? He also, part of what seemed to fuel his anger there that he talked about after the game, after those initial comments, was Colin Kaepernick was sort of avoiding him, he thought. And then he targets him for just the second time that game on the last play. It was almost as if he thought that Kaepernick was trying to point him out and punctuate it over him. Do you think there could have been that element where Kaepernick was like, you know what, I'm going to make this one stick right over Sherman as we go for the win?
No, Kaepernick was going to the guy that was probably most likely to catch the ball, although you see the receiver on that clip on the outside field wide open. He was trying to win the game. He was trying to go to his most trusted receiver, his favorite guy, when he's throwing the ball. That's what Kaepernick was doing. As you noticed during the entire game, Kaepernick avoided him like almost every quarterback does in the league. Avoid Richard Sherman. He is truly a shutdown corner. You don't risk that when you're playing the game.
Yeah, I think it might have been a conscious effort on Kaepernick's part to stay away from Sherman earlier in the game, but it was not a conscious effort to go at Sherman. But Sherman has convinced himself of that. That's what makes you a good player. It's mind over matter. Sherman convinced himself he's going after me, he's attacking me. By the way, I still can't believe that Malcolm Smith, a linebacker, is in the back right corner of the end zone to intercept that. That's like the Jeter play. I mean, what is Malcolm Smith doing right there? Nobody's talking about that. How is Malcolm Smith there to catch that ball?
The S Network is going to be very happy with that reference
Jeter
you
reference?
just made. Oh, that was smooth, Ross. Here's the thing about, I want to go back to the cooling off period for a moment and the idea that we get these guys right as they come off the field. Now, from a media perspective or even a fan perspective, we don't want that to change because it gives us great content like what we saw with Richard Sherman here. But from a player's perspective, you know, Ross, if you are going to be ostracized the way that Richard Sherman was for the emotion he showed in the heat of battle right afterwards, are you going to want to start shying away from having the camera on you and the microphone in front of you immediately following the game?
I don't think Richard Sherman's going to shy away from anything. I think Richard Sherman loves this. Now, he did backtrack a little bit from it, but no, I don't think they're going to do that. Who really would that benefit? One player that doesn't say the right thing maybe at that one inopportune time?
Well, we certainly would not want to see that, especially with the prospect of a Richard Sherman post-Super Bowl win interview at MetLife Stadium.